came out. You always trying to tell me
I was not.
how young you are.
It was 1990. I was probably I was in high school. It was like my second year in high school. I remember it vividly. I remember Thieves in the Temple premiering on Video Soul. I remember it very, very vividly. But what I think Alvin definitely they like Alvin and Chris, like they kind of like basically had like some great points. First of all, like what we know as Graffiti Bridge in the that's been released, those tracks were like a lot of those were vaulted tracks, and like Alvin said, this was the first. This definitely was the first project that it was like open collaboration. You know, him and Morris started talking again. You know what I mean? And so it was like, okay, well, they get excited and put the time act together. At the same time, you know, he's full on into Paisley Park Records mode. I believe, what's the guy that's working A&R? Eric Leeds. So Eric Leeds is A&R. And so they signed Mavis Staples, they signed George Clinton, and he's mentoring Tevin Campbell. So like all of this happening. Yeah, you know. But the original Graffiti Bridge idea had all new material, which was like in '87. And the original script had nothing to do with what we saw as a movie. I think that in the beginning, when Madonna said she didn't want to do it, that's when he was like, well, forget it, you know? And so he just kind of left it alone for a couple of years. And so he couldn't get money for like this new idea that he wanted to create. So he kind of had to like trick them into saying, well, it's kind of like a Purple Rain sequel. And that's where Morris comes in. That's where like all these people come in. And, you know, so I guess when it came to the soundtrack, he was like, I'm going to piece it together, but still create something that's kind of cohesive. I know a lot of people say that the movie and the soundtrack don't have a singular vision, but it probably does. We just don't know what that is. We don't know the mind of Prince. You know what I'm saying? Like he took an idea that he had that, you know, that wasn't going to work, and he did something, you know what I mean? He did something else. Like we don't know, you know. But yeah, like I think he was in a transition because also this is the first time we start to see this is the first time Rosie Gaines comes into the fold. This is the first time Morris Hayes comes into the fold. This is the last input from Dr. Fink. He's out after this. In fact, he doesn't even appear in the movie, although he's on the record. Also, I think that this is the first time Tony M, you mentioned the rap. This is the first time we hear Tony M, who later, Get Off and like that whole era. And this is the first time like, okay, like I'm going to try to put a band together now, new power generation. And the weird thing, like the funny thing is, so Elisa Fiorello, who ended up with him towards the end of his days, but she actually appears on this album, Elisa Fiorello, which is crazy. So I think he was in the transition as well. You know, I agree with like Chris and Alvin, and I'm gonna add to that, he was also in the transition. He didn't care what nobody thought. You know, he was trying to figure this thing all out right now. You know, he was trying to like, okay, they won't let me do the movie I wanted to do. I'm going to try to make this work somehow. And I mean, you know, not for nothing he tried, you know.
Oh, no. Well, I'll be honest. Like, I think that the visual of the movie is very beautiful. I think that the direction, he's as a director, it's on point of the concert scenes, let alone all of them are awesome. The set is, you know, the Graffiti Bridge set to me looks like it's from HR Puffin stuff. You know, it looks very cheap, but it was all done in his studio. You know, so you can even see like they're he's riding his motorcycle in between the set, and you can see that the ground is the studio floor. There is no like deny. There is no road. So. Right. Yeah. But it's cool. The movie itself. Okay, so Paisley Park opened in 1989. he recorded or did this whole thing right around 1990. The album got released. I mean, the album got released on August 20, 1990. The album was almost 70 minutes long. So that was a really big deal at that time. So he charged $2 more list price because it was like a jam-packed album. And I think that was not a good idea. So when you went and had to pay a lot of money, it was a $2 more. It hit number 6 on the R&B chart and the pop chart. It went gold on both sides. As the movie, it has a 19% Rotten Tomato. It's a 4.5 out of 10 by IMDb. The budget was $7 million. It made 4.6, so that's considered a failure. But it's not a failure because all three of us are talking about it 31 years later. And the movie was released 1990. So it had a couple months for people to get that album, get the songs ready to go. So when they saw it live, right. I mentioned this when we started talking about some questions to talk about is, well, we could really break apart this movie as a really terrible movie and really not cohesive. We're also talking about Black cinema back in the time, which is a little headier. So I want to talk to Alban because you were a little baby, but this is right around the time of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing came out, like maybe a year. So we're going all the way back then. And there was a heavy segregation of like Black artists and Black films, and they were relegated to certain markets. And it doesn't have a big opening. It's possible that if the reviews were really good for this movie the first week, it may have been opened up in other markets. But there was a time when Black cinema was, sidelined. Do you agree with that? Remember that time period, Alban?
Yes, most definitely. So you got to think about it, because anytime there was a Black release for a movie, you didn't get the full screens like you got in the for the white movies that were released. And then you're also talking about somebody who is technically not a movie star. So he's not a movie star, so they're not going to give you what you're looking for unless you're going to deliver them Purple Rain Part 2.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to get $7 million for a budget is amazing, okay? We say it grossed like 4.6 is a failure. Well, let AJ do a movie and let me gross that. I'm moonwalking in this bad boy for the next 2 years, okay? So, on those things alone, and then you take somebody like Spike Lee, who was a director, who went to film school, who had some product out there, and then when he dropped his seminal racial tension movie, Do the Right Thing, that thing was powerful, and it had a heavy resonance in the Black community. But he also had some stars in there that you got to see, Danny Aiello, who you going to get him to play in a Prince movie, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that was a little bit of a problem because Prince didn't have any marketable stars in that movie. I believe the only person in there was really him. Ingrid Chavez, she wasn't really nobody of note, right?
No.
At least when he did Purple Rain, he had Clarence William III. So we knew him from Mod Squad from back in the day and all these other culture movies that he had played in. And I also think one of the other big things is, remember, Prince also directed this movie himself.
Yeah.
And he Purple Rain was directed by someone else. Under the Cherry Moon, he took the helm. Sign of the Times, he kind of took the helm with a little bit of help. And then he did this movie, so he didn't have a stellar track record. So I think all those things did work against him for effect. And then let's just think about musical kind of movies. Since the days of the MGM musical, music movies don't really hit like we want them to hit. They have to be concert movies for the audiences to resonate with them. Whether you're Black or white, those are the type of movies people want to see their stars in. And I really go back to Under the Cherry Moon because he didn't play Prince. And all the other movies, he kind of played Prince. In that movie, he played a character. So folks are a little hard to see you play something different to transition from out of what they know you as. And the soundtrack didn't help him because there were no seminal smashes. If he had oh God, when doves cry, if he had a Purple Rain on this bad boy, that would also help propel that, and they would have probably opened up more theaters for him. So
Yeah.
I do think when you look at that time, I was 30 at that time, and just trying to think about what's going on in the world at that time and conditions. We were coming off the boom of the 80s. Money was crazy. You know, all kind of good things were happening. We were getting very selfish. We were getting ourselves. Technology was starting to bubble up, where we were starting to see things we had never seen before. The internet was starting to spring up. So I think all those things did help suppress the film from being a little bit better than it could have been.
Right, right.
Darnell, do you know, could you synopsis the movie? Like, what does it mean?
Like, what does it mean?
What is the, yeah, so it's a thin veil. If you don't want to, I can do it. Do you think you know what the movie's about?
Honestly, as many times as I've seen the movie, I could never really tell you necessarily what the movie's about. I just know it involves the kid,
Yeah,
Morris, you know, and like all the other characters that ensue.
Right.
You know, I could never like really break the whole movie down.
Okay.
I know he wanted to create like a whole West Side Story type of vibe. I just don't, you know, I couldn't really tell you, like, you know, I would, you know.
That's okay. All right. So this is, let me see if I can like run it and see if you guys, the thin veil of the thing. So it is a sequel of Purple Rain. Okay. So you got you got the kid, and now they're all a little more famous and established. They're all in that, you know, musical area. And the time is doing a lot better. Morris's character. They want to take over that all the theaters in that area, so he can kind of dominate it. Prince's dad, when he died, had a whole bunch of lyrics about gospel music and spirituality, and Prince wanted to take some of his music into a more spiritual. Well, I guess it's the kid. The kid wanted to bring some more spirituality into his music, and by doing that, less people showed up to his theater, and that's where they felt they could attack and turn around and take over. So they there's a aura comes out of nowhere, and she represents an angel with a feather, and she says that she's here to do whatever it takes to make Prince see that he can go forward with his spirituality. So there's some scenes that basically there's a band off and Prince loses, and Aurora is allowed to get bowled over by a car, and they realize that what they're doing is very petty and selfish, and that, you know, he should just be able to do what he needs to do and provide more spirituality in his music, and it's happily ever after. Do you feel like I kind of got it?
Tom, you
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Listen, I watch this movie.
I'm gonna say it really simple.
Okay, yeah.
Listen, it is good versus evil.
Uh-huh.
You have a God figure who shows up. She has to die. That's the reincarnation. And then they have the battle, which Prince effectively lost. And when she died, that was the reincarnation. Then Prince comes out with a ballad, and
Yes.
he wins the contest with a ballad. And Morris basically says, "Okay, why am I fighting my brother in essence? And you keep your club, and we all gonna go do what we need to do."
But there, she was brought, like, she's like an angel. She was brought there for this situation.
Yes.
She could have easily like walked out. I mean, that car was running in slow motion. She could have easily just walked away from it and not get hit by it, but she did it on purpose because she felt that there was a power that was telling her that she'll do whatever it takes.
Yes.
So I don't know. This is that thing when you watch this movie, like, you know, 70, 80 times, which I do, like, where you get a little more involved than you probably should.
Chris, you were going to say something. I think I stepped over you, Chris. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say I think that's a good synopsis, and you know, it's always interesting to me that it's seen as a sequel to Purple Rain. It's almost the exact same storyline as Purple Rain. You know, Morris ends, you know, sort of the conflict in almost exactly the same way, and then they have the big ballad. It's Still Would Stand All Time instead of Purple Rain. But honestly, it's very similar. I think Prince was sort of lost and didn't quite know where to go with it. You know, the visuals are really striking. You know, it would have worked well, perhaps, like when Prince put out the Symbol album a few years later. He put out a video collection of sort of loosely connected videos that were sort of thematically connected. This would have worked fine as that direct to video.
Yes.
You know, sort of a promotional tool for the album, instead of a, you know, major movie. But you know, Prince being Prince, he had big dreams. So
Yeah.
The thing about this movie is that it is thinly veiled videos, and that's what's even more striking.
it is.
That's
Yeah, it is.
just
It's basically a video collection. I mean,
Yeah.
you can look at it like that with the sort of very thin storyline connecting, but it's basically about the songs and you know, the performances, the videos.
Yes.
I think the Times songs Shake and Released It is like awesome videos. They're great.
Yeah, those are two good songs. Very strong
Very strong
tracks.
song. And you could see that he clearly, like when him and Morris got back together, like he clearly had a vision for where, because you know they have a whole album that never, of course, you know, that whole Corporate World album that never really got released. But you could hear that like Prince kind of had a vision of where he thought the time should go, like in the future. You could clearly hear that.
Yeah, and I think that it would have been better if, you know, like you mentioned, it was a 70-minute album. I think if he had done what he did with Purple Rain, which was put his own material on the record and then let the satellite bands sort of have their own records at the same time, I think that probably would have worked better to make a more cohesive album. And, you know, I think that would have presented the material better personally. But because it kind of gets lost. I don't like the sort of various artist aspect of it, really.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's
wow.
different.
Wow.
I actually like that, so I'm surprised to get that from you.
No, I'm open to that idea. Like I've never heard that. Wow, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Well, everyone was on the labels except for Tevin,
Tevin.
so that could have easily worked.
And that's what he basically did during Purple Rain. That's it, you know, because Ice Cream Castle's the time at their album, you know, and you know, so
the only person that didn't have an album out ended up having an album out that was in Purple Rain was Des Dickerson with Modern Air.
That's right. Yeah. I think that was a single, perhaps, if I remember correctly. But I don't. Yeah.
So why wasn't these Time songs released as singles? One, both of them are extremely high. Two, they had a built-in video already, and you know they had is it Pandemonium just was coming out next, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Pandemonium.
So what was the reason? Because these songs are single worthy.
Well, I think that Shake It was released as a single, if I'm not mistaken. It probably didn't chart. I think one of the two.
But was it credited to the Time when they released it? I think they still credited the Prince.
I think it was credited to the Time.
Okay, I don't remember. Okay.
Yeah, I think Shake was released as a single. I don't think it did anything. It's probably, I'm pretty sure that there was a single issue for that one. Maybe it was only a promo.
Okay. It was a built-in video just right from the movie. It was great to see these guys. Today, it's great to see Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis dance, and all these guys look so young and youthful. And to realize that Morris Day just has such an amazing like stage presence. Like he is like a modern day Cab Calloway. You know, he was drawing people in with his charisma more than his talent. But I thought it was great. But what was the deal with the Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis? Because I thought they got kicked out at SOS, Just Be Good to Me. That's 1984. So here you see them in 1889, and they're basically in the band again. So where did that all? You guys know better than me. How that happened?
I want to just back up to your original statement, and I believe that's a part of the problem. Because even think when they released the last record they did, they had to call that record the original 7 because Prince wouldn't give them the name, the Time, who we will always, forever and a day, call them the Time. And I still think they hadn't settled all that yet. And Prince, being, I'm a little surprised at him. This is the one thing I really felt that he should have let go of and let them be who they are, especially when Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis proved that they were equally as talented as he was. And with the fact that when he works with an artist, you kind of get a Prince track for the artist. When Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis work with an artist, they take that artist in, sit with them, feel them, and then they work on the project collectively. And Jesse Johnson is probably one of the most underrated guitar players on the planet.
True.
I don't know how when he had his little 3-record R&B run, he was killing it. Everything he dropped was pure fire. So I think that Prince still wanted to be the overlord of that group. So I think he wouldn't allow them. Like, they didn't really write the music that they performed on that. I think he co-wrote those jams, one with Morris and Levi Caesar, who wasn't a part of the time. So I think there was still some salty feelings. I don't know what was with the labels, what went on, behind the scenes with the labels. You know how you gotta, this artist is from A&M Records, performing on this soundtrack. So I think there was a lot of that still going on that they hadn't resolved. That's why I don't think they pushed those songs out to a Time album and tried to drive the time to help fuel this movie.
Living in that time period and being out on the dance floors, that Ice Cream Castle's album was huge, and it's weird how they couldn't capitalize on that momentum, that they had to take 2 steps back, because when it came to that time period, they were the #1 funk band. Like, they were it. So it's kind of weird how, I don't know, they get kind of knocked in the knees or legs through their career when they were so good.
Well, I think that I think that, of course, the whole thing of the time being Prince and Morris's baby, and then by the time Purple Rain is like full-fledged, it's Prince's baby. Prince is making the calls, but it's supposed to be Morris's band. And so Morris feels some type of way. So that creates tension. You bring Paul Peterson and like this other cat, like all this other stuff starts to happen. Jesse rolls out, when Morris rolls out, then Jesse rolls out, like all this stuff happens. And the time, what most people don't really think about is that even after Jesse and Morris roll out, like the time is still there. So now Prince has to pick up those pieces from the time. And does he keep going with the time? What does he do? No, he takes the leftover pieces from the time and then creates the family, because people still got to eat. You know what I mean? Really, it was like Jerome got to eat, Jelly Bean got to eat. So people got to eat.
What are you doing? Like, are you flicking something? Like, your audio's like, what are you touching? Like, on their
I'm probably touching my desk, but that's right.
Stop touching your desk.
Okay.
Your words are too important, and I don't want to chop them out because of some kind of
okay. But I think that then the family comes, and then of course Jimmy Jam and Terry, like, they explode with Control, of course, which Prince acknowledges, but in a very shady way.
Yes, sir.
And then, but when they explode, they take Monty Moore and Jelly Bean along with them.
Yes.
Jesse Johnson explodes. Morris Day explodes, but they have no like relationship like with Prince, but Prince is always sending out SOS singles. But so by the time Graffiti Bridge or whatever rolls around, Prince and Morris, I guess they cool again, because Prince and Morris, they act like family. Like, we talking, then we not talking. We talking, then we not talking. And so by this time they started talking. But what I think happened was they worked on this album Corporate World. But if you like, at this point, Jimmy Jam and Terry are established. Jelly Bean is established because he did Black Cat. Monty Moore did Pleasure Principle. And we know Jesse Johnson's work. Like, come on. You know what I mean? It's like, now, if you want us back, we need to be contributing to this pop. Like, you're not just gonna like, they hood too. I don't know if you know the time, but they hood. They hood.
Man, like, they'll cut you.
Right. They will cut you. So it's like, nah, we not coming back now, because we done like, we made a name for ourselves. We're not gonna let you control this whole thing. We'll let you get a little bit. We're not letting you get it all. So I think that's what led to like the whole Graffiti Bridge thing not popping off, but then Pandemonium popping off, because that was an album that they all contributed to.
And it's a great album.
Yeah, which is a great album. I mean, but the best songs, we gotta admit, are the ones that Prince.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jerk out, like, you know.
Yeah, man. All right, what can you say?
I mean, I hate to say it, you know, I mean, you know,
Sure.
but the original 7 record is genius, though.
I know, Condensate, you know, Strawberry.
If I Was Your Man, Cadillac,
yes.
yeah.
I just not that I'm going to use this on this recording, but the keyboard part of Shake was a steal from Paul McCartney's Ule Esta Sole from 1989's Flower in the Dirt. The total rep from it. Yeah, so random.
Go find that.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. Christian, what did you think of Tevin Campbell being used in the movie and then also on the soundtrack?
I mean, you know, he was fine. I didn't really care much about it, to be honest. You know, it didn't really strike me as you know, anything remarkable. Not to be mean or anything. You know, he's a great, you know, he was a good vocalist. I thought that song was a little cloying, to be honest with you. I didn't really think it fit in with the soundtrack, with the Prince record. You know, I think that's another reason why I think it would have been better as a separate release. But you know, it was a hit. You know, and it sort of launched Tevin's career. It was a little strange. The whole thing was a little strange. But you know, Tevin later did the song Shh, which Prince recorded on the Gold Experience album. You know, so it wasn't the last time they collaborated, but it launched a sort of, you know, he became popular for a while. He had several hits, so.
We got Darnell is muted. I don't know if he's angry or not. Oh, he's on the phone. Alban, I think it's amazing that a kid, I guess he was 14, 15, who would have Quincy Jones as a mentor and Prince at the same time. No one is, as far as I know, other than like say Judy Garland, has ever been mentored to that level with genius on genius on genius, and them realizing that he has a talent. When that song came out, it started at number 12. I wanted it to be number 1. I did have a problem with one line, and I want you to talk about the song or what you're saying, but I just want to get this lyric out. One day I'll make it in the big city and I'll be looking for a girl who's pretty. One day I'll make a play and then she'll say, okay, because I want to be a cool kitty. And I was like, I always thought it was cool kid. And he drops that vocal so you don't even understand what it is, but it's cool kitty, which I violently hate that line. But what's your thoughts on Tevin?
I think that I thought it was smart on Prince's part, because that's really like a PG movie. It's not like it's an R-rated movie. So this may have been a way to drive some young fans to the movie, to get on board and understand his vision. I think it's a classic pop tune. At that time, you know, I would take a lot of those tracks and I would record them. I had my daughter come in and sing that track. I wish I still had the version that I sang. She knew the song word for word. She didn't need no lyrics or nothing. That's how strongly that song resonated with the kids. And if you look at that movie, really, that was like his spot. Yeah. You know, him and Mavis, you know, that was it. Even George had like one little spot. Yeah. So his spot and Melody Cool were the 2 times that they were featured prominently, and at least Mavis did have some more lines down the road when she was trying to, you know, get everything going back together. But it was a smart play on his part to take a young artist who he saw something in and deliver that track for him. When he delivered Sure to Kevin, Tevin didn't have the adult experiences to put into that track what it needed. So when Prince dropped on the Gold Experience, he put into it what it needed, especially with Michael P back there with them devastating drum fills all over the place. Okay?
Those drum riffs, oh my God.
They are so amazing.
Amazing.
Michael P is the man.
Absolutely.
But I thought it was a beautiful part on him, because when you go back to Purple Rain, where the kids at? Under the Cherry Moon, the kids were in the street when they were running through the streets of Paris. Sign of the Times,
No kids.
No kids. Okay. So I think it was his way of, again, giving another avenue for folks to experience Prince. I always say that the difference between Prince and Michael is when you see Michael Jackson, you see the kids from 4, the people from 4 to 94. When you saw Prince, you saw the crowd from like 17 to like 50 was like his hardcore crew. So
Yeah.
I think it was his way to try to, let me see if I can reel a few more in.
With Darnell, we're going to talk about Mavis, but what did you think about Tevin before we go to Mavis?
You know, I think Round and Round, I mean, that's the one song I remember like in the hood that was getting played actually.
I think it's a beautiful song.
Yeah,
I don't like that line.
Yeah, just that you don't like that line. But that in the hood, I remember even on Video Soul, like that was a song that was getting the play in the hood, you know, because Tevin was still kind of hot at that time too, as well. I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, well, that's interesting, Prince and Tevin, you know. And what I just learned recently is like the version that we hear mostly was actually a remix by Junior Vasquez.
Oh, okay.
That's what I learned. Yeah. You know, and even with the whole like break, when I first heard Break It Down, I was like, okay, what he know about doing somebody after school like some homework? And I was like, you know what?
It wouldn't be Prince. On the kitchen.
That's right.
It wouldn't be Prince if he didn't take an artist there. I mean, and I thought it was actually cool. You know, even that Quincy, you know, was like, okay, you know, I will let you do this.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was cool. But Round and Round, I think it's a cool song. I think vocally, like Tevin is like spot on.
Yeah.
He's vocally, you know, not, you know, he's just vocally, he's spot on with that song.
Yeah. I actually, now that I don't know, like, I think his delivery makes it feel like more of a youthful song, where I don't think like Prince could carry a Round and Round, or it would be a track that he would give to a female group or something, because it has a play that's not him anymore. It's not a Prince vision. It's a Prince song, but I don't think it would work for him. So it's good that he would give it away.
I've seen him sing that in concert, and what he does is he puts a twist on it, so he makes it more adult, and it's more of a growl as opposed to that high soaring. The background vocals would get that round and around, and he sang it in a more of a lower or sensual tone than Tevin did.
Yeah, well, that would only work that way. Yeah, I want that. Okay, so then we're talking about Mavis Staples. So Mavis was kind of you got the Staple Singers, one of the best singers of all time, and she was dormant on the R&B charts. It seemed that, you know, once Prince brought her onto his label, from then on she really has had a spotlight on her. And then even recently, Wilco's Jeff Tweedy started working with her, and she's now like an R&B legend that has a whole new audience that never knew that she existed. I think she looks stunning in this. I just watched it before I called you guys, and this is she looks beautiful. She couldn't say her lines at the beginning of Melody Cool. They could have done another take. She's like, I'm Melody Cool. Like they didn't match. But I think it's really cool that they were ready to take her space away, and she just comes out and say, I'm Melody Cool. And 50 people run out and sing behind her and explain to her that she's Melody Cool. So the song's awesome. I think it goes a little too long. That's all. I would actually do a little edit on it because I think we get the point that she's Melody Cool. But other than that, that's my only take on it. Who wants to chime in on Mavis and her contribution?
Well, I think you nailed it. I think she delivers a great vocal on that song, and it's a really good song. It had, you know, a pretty strong melody. I think that it was sort of a reach for it to have been a pop hit, but it definitely put a spotlight on her, and it was nice to see. I actually think the 2 albums that Prince did with Mavis had a lot of really good material on it, and you know, I think that he gave her some good stuff, and she did it really well. It was one of the better collaborations, I think, that Prince has had with one of the sort of heritage artists. You know,
like that. That's a good point, Chris. Absolutely.
I agree totally. That was those albums like God Is Alive, like all of that, just all that whole.
I come to
Those
you like a
albums
heat,
with
like a dog in the night.
Yeah, man.
That's a line, boy. Who could write that in a
Time, the
Yeah.
song Time, and she, you know, even during that era, she had started to get recognition again from the gospel community. I remember her clearly singing "Time" on the Stellar Awards. You know,
hmm
I will
And
never forget it.
she did Train, didn't she? Too, didn't she? That song Train.
Yes.
From
God.
from the Sign of the Times period.
Yes.
And one thing I would say about her appearance, what was slick about bringing Mavis out, is when she came out, you know, you thought she was going to come out and sing her song, then all of a sudden you saw the Steels come behind her, and they set the stage for them.
Yes.
And then when Prince did his ballad at the end, they brought the Steels back again to help solidify with those soaring vocals to lift that thing up and just help you propel it down the road. So I think that was really a great transition point for them.
We cannot forget the Steels. They're like, they were an integral part of that era. They did a lot of vocal work for him, and he actually produced an album for them. Like,
yes.
We cannot forget the Steels. Definitely cannot. Yeah.
George Clinton, in my opinion, I love the Cinderella Theory. I do. I think it's a great album. I don't know if you're laughing. Oh, okay.
No, I love it.
Yeah, Cinderella Theory.
Yeah.
I was shocked that it went into cutout. It went into cutout like after 6 months that it came out. It's too good of an album. And so when I like, you know, I was listening to Questlove, and he was still heavy addicted to drugs at that point. So it's debatable on how much that song is. The song was "We Can Fuck," and they changed it to "We Can Funk."
Yeah.
And it's debatable how much George really had involved in it, because it seems like a Prince track with like a background vocal, and even George in the movie is just a faint blip.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice, because George is a human being who is a character amongst himself. You don't need any kind of script. He is George Clinton. So it would have been cool to bring him out as himself and just, you know, just watch him in his awesomeness. So it was disappointing about his contribution here.
Yeah, he was wasted in that movie, unfortunately. I mean, he really was. You got George Clinton. I mean, and that's what you get. Give from it. It's a shame. But the song, it's a Prince song that that song had been percolating around for years, and he had re-recorded it many times. And you're right. I don't think there's just a very little tidbit of George singing maybe the second verse, I think, but he's not really on it that much.
I would say that this is the weakest song on the album. I could go there and say you could drop this because it doesn't really match up to the movie, but it could have easily went on George's Cinderella Theory album.
Oh no, I might throw Tick Tick Bang in there because at
Yes.
least with that song, with We Can Funk, you can kind of
That's
group
the
to
worst.
it. Tick Tick Bang is
like, what?
It's embarrassing.
I like the song, but it's too eclectic to groove.
Oh my God, no,
George,
fighting words.
Let me say about George. First off, I give Prince all the credit in the world for going out to grab George, because remember,
There you go.
grabbed Chaka, he grabbed Mavis, he grabbed Larry Graham. These were stars whose careers were basically DOA.
Yeah.
He brought them into Paisley Park, put them on the label, and he tried to get George into that movie. And if we think Prince is a character, George is on steroids compared to Prince. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
And if you could come into my studio and I walk you out into my DJ room, I probably have about 5,000 vinyl records out there. The very first record that I ever brought in my life was Parliament Mothership Connection. That's the record that started my vinyl record collection. And George Clinton was a man who, it started with James Brown. I heard Cold Sweat, and that funk hit me in a way that it never hit me before. And when I heard George Clinton, I was a disciple. So I love George Clinton. George Clinton changed the whole genre of music, and you can see Prince paying his homage to George from what he did for him. But as far as being in that movie, If Tevin had a spit in the movie, George had less than that, and it was probably for the better given the condition he was in. If George was in better condition, maybe Prince would have featured him more. So we're just grateful he got to sign his beat away when Mavis told him not to.
Yeah, I think he had 3 lines. I did it. You know, it's like there's really nothing going on. As a wild card, as someone who is a highlight to this movie, is Jill Jones, the dancer. She is hot. Her dance moves. I know I'm not a good dancer, but people don't realize that I imitate her dancing in the cage all the time because it's so simple. And people are like, "Wow, he's terrible." But I'm doing Jill Jones. I'm doing my own Jill Jones imitation, and that has a lot to do with me being stuck on this movie that I've watched it so many times. She was a great addition. I think she was as an actress, she was one of the stronger points on the movie. But anyone want to fight me on that one?
Yeah, and she's great talent, and she did a lot for Prince over the years. And her album that he produced and wrote, the Jill Jones album, I think it came out in '86 or '87. That's probably, in my opinion, the strongest of the Protege Project's albums, at least one of the strongest. It's a really good record start to finish, and it's a shame that it didn't do better. But yeah, it was good to see her. She was in Purple Rain, obviously. It was good to see her back in this one.
I thought she had a good role. I thought that she was featured. I like the scene where when she's leaving and he's like, "What are you doing?" She stops. She pulls her underwear down, steps out of it, and shoots him the look like basically, "I'm going over to Morris's spot. We done."
It's a iconic scene.
Yeah, man, and she, Jill is. I consider her one of his soldiers. She was one that was there, and whatever role and task, she sang a lot of background vocals on a bunch of tracks. I never got a chance to hear her full project all the way through, but all I heard was good things about it. So I might have to do some digging to search that out because I really never searched it out. But now that Chris has made that comment, I think I'm gonna have to do some digging.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Okay, it's pretty amazing.
I'll go. You want to talk about her?
I mean, but both of them just hit it on the nail. Jill's been there from 1999, probably even before that, and beyond. And she's always kind of been there as this unsung soldier of the Prince camp. And we've heard her voice so many times from, Glamorous Life to 1999 to parts of Take Me With You, like so many songs, and I think that role, it kind of almost feels like a little bit of the little bit of role she had in Purple Rain too, like, you know what I'm saying, like that same type of character. But I think of course she was one of the strongest ones. Because really by this time Ingrid Chavez was over it all. She was ready to roll, and you can clearly see that in her performance.
That's what I was gonna say. Okay, so we got she's the weakest link in this movie. She looked like she was spun around in a circle, and they said, let's start it, because she looked dizzy and disoriented through the whole thing. She looked like she could barely. Yeah, it's like she. I think that, like, if I'm not mistaken, Ingrid Chavez was supposed to have a lesbian relationship with Sandra Bernhard. And then Sandra Bernhard had a fight with Madonna, and Madonna had a lesbian love with her. She had an album out that I think Madonna produced, and it was a dud. And then right now, I was just on Questlove, and she was with Jessica Johnson. They're together forever. So all that stuff might have been media hype at the time, just to prove her as an artist. But she was a pretty girl, but she was not talented.
Well, that she wrote Justify My Love with Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah.
So there was a big deal about that. And Prince tried to basically tell her, this is how you want to handle that. And, but yeah, there was a big falling out between Lenny and Ingrid about Justify My Love. Because if you listen to the song, you kind of hear her voice a little bit on the song.
I don't know what her voice is, because I know that Love
You
Machine.
know her voice from Love Sexy.
Okay, all right.
Rain is
She
wet,
also-
sugar is sweet.
She has a single, and it was probably never released as a single, but she has a song. It's like a poetry spoken word piece
Yeah.
called Heaven. Heaven
Yeah.
Knows or something like that. That
Yeah.
shit is hot. Okay, believe me, it's hot. I got this record. It's called New Power Generation. Prince and them took over a radio station in Minneapolis. It's a 3 LP. They do commercials and stuff. They do their own commercials. One of the commercials is like, "Yo, get them Levi jeans so you can walk your ass on up out of here." You know?
Yeah, you know her voice.
Yes, and the song is bad.
Yeah, you know her
the
voice.
song is bad.
She's all over Love Sexy. She's all over Love Sexy.
She doesn't really have good things to say about her Prince experience, though. Like
Oh,
right
no,
now,
during that filming, she was
Yeah.
over. She was
Yeah.
so, like Jesse was over it. She was like a lot of the cats was over it by the
Yeah.
time it ended. Yeah.
That's sad. Yeah.
all right. So we're into some of the highlights of the album. I totally disagree with you about Tick Tick Bang. Yeah, that Tick Tick Bang was written as a punkier song from the controversy time period, so 1981. But I don't know. The whole video with in the street, it's great. It's a great part of the album. I mean, of the movie. The weirdest thing is,
might be better than the song.
Yeah, the thing is that the whole, if you think about it, it's that thin veil of the narrative of like his dad is doing gospel songs, he's doing gospel songs, but then he's doing overtly sexual songs that are very like it doesn't make sense. Tick Tick Bang is an example of something that doesn't fit this narrative of the movie, but it doesn't matter. It's awesome, and Prince has the best hair in this movie. And,
Yes.
I can't stop looking at it. I'm like, his hair is amazing.
Perfect.
Along with he never gave up on the heels. He wore
That
heels.
hair is great. You hear me? That hair is great.
Chris-
There's one scene in there when he goes to see Ingrid when they're over at the bridge and they're doing their little walk around. He has to come down the bridge. Watch him walk down that bridge, them heels, boy. He has to watch his step because he almost bust his ass.
This is the reason why he had to have hip surgery, wearing those heels all the time and dancing.
Yeah.
Christian, you have any?
Yeah, I think that song worked better during the controversy period. Honestly, I think it's it works sort of as a sort of new wave ditty, kind of like almost like Jack You Off or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that the lyrics are embarrassing and just dreadful. I really do. I just
love
think
it.
I think it would have been better left in the vault. Honestly,
It's very
one of the
childish.
few Prince songs that I say that about.
When I was a little kid, like Dirty Mind was like, I must have been like 15 or whatever when I heard Dirty Mind. So the fact that, he's saying dirty things was really cool. Tick Tick Bang is in that headspace of a 15-year-old kid where I was like, yeah, he's like saying bad stuff.
But I think he had gone sort of beyond that by that time. So
Yeah. Anyway, the question of you is a song from like the Parade time period. Why it didn't make the album, I don't know. I think it's a great song. What I get out of it's a swirling like there's a song on Sgt. Pepper, The Benefit for Mr. Kite at the end where it turns into this cacophony of like carnival music and it swirls around a little. I get that towards the end of this song where there's a whole different element that's spinning around on this song that you don't expect. It's very, very cerebral. It's a heady song.
It's a beautiful song. It's one of the best songs on the record.
Sir, I put the two of them I put together is the question of you enjoying repetition because they're definitely blues based. You got that nice, kind of hypnotic head nod thing going. The lyrics are just seminal. They're just perfect. And the fact how he juxtaposed them in the movie, the minute you see the movie, you have to like those songs because they are so pivotal to the movie.
Yes, exactly. Those two songs in particular are masterpieces, in my opinion. Two of his best studio recordings. And the question of you was actually, it was going to be the single until Thieves in the Temple was a late addition. The question of you for a while was going to be the first single. So he obviously thought very highly of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he didn't put it out because I don't think people would have grabbed. I think we love it, of course. I don't think it's one of them songs that the masses would gravitate to.
I think you're right.
The way he did Thieves in the Temple. That's
Yeah, I
my
think you're
wife's
right.
jam. You play Thieves in the Temple, my wife loses her mind.
Do you have any Darnell? Do you have any thoughts on Question of You? Because we'll go right into joy and repetition.
Of course, it's definitely one of the flat for Prince fans and for Prince heads. It's one of the flagship songs of that soundtrack. That Enjoying Repetition. You know, like it's just genius. I agree with them.
I can see Joy and Repetition being played live because it is a bluesy kind of thing where you could just blow that out into guitar solos, bass solos, drums, and it's love me, like it's awesome. Doesn't fit the album, which is weird, but it's good.
Well, I think it would have fit the album better if he had left off the, Protege band material. If you think about it, Elephants and Flowers, Question of You, Joy and Repetition, Weak and Funk, they all kind of vibe together, Can't Stop Feeling This Feeling I Got, especially side one. Side two goes off in a sort of different direction, but, I think it fits. I think it's a great song.
I think of
Flowers is my sleeper song. That's the song. The first time I heard it, I fell out. I love that record. I just love the sound of it. I just like the lyrical content because it's quirky enough that you just can't listen to it and go, oh, I get it. You got to listen to it several times. And I didn't think about that, Chris. That's a great point. If you were to take those two records and separate them, listen to one side, kind of absorb it, and then go in and listen to the second side, I do think side one would be the stronger record, and then side two you'd hear it because it's got a little bit more of the other cuts connected to it. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Elephants and Flowers is similar to Starfish and Coffee?
Just with the quirkiness? Yes,
I play. Yeah. Okay, so the Thieves in the Temple doesn't make sense. I don't know what it means. What is Thieves in the Temple? Is it thieves of your heart, like people going after your heart or your money or something? I don't know. The one thing is that the movie has an extended dance piece that you don't see in the regular video, and it is fantastic. And again, Prince's hair is amazing. Prince's dance moves are amazing. The choreography is amazing. It's a stellar, like it's a A+ video in my opinion.
Shout out to Paula Abdul.
Is that who did it? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a total win. He had a lot of I don't know if that's like it's a female. Females used to have like kind of a open thing around the chest where it would drag down one side. He had a lot of that going on. I know there's a name for it, but off the shoulder.
Flash dance.
Yeah.
Flash dance.
Yeah, he had a lot of that going on. A lot of leggings. Anyone talk about Themes of the Temple?
I think it's biblical.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Like he's always had mad biblical references in his music. So I think it's biblical.
I think it's dual also, Darnell. I think it's biblical because he's talking about thieves in the temple from a religious aspect, but I also think he's talking about this is my girl and you guys are trying to check her.
Yeah, that's
so
exactly right.
That's right. I think it's dual because he has that spiritual and his, the human sensual side.
He's great. He was great with that. He was great with that.
And that had a great extended remix also on the it was really good.
Which I have on vinyl. I don't have that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now, number 6 on the pop chart, number 1 in R&B. It was in 1989, 1990. That song was nothing like anything else in the top 40. It just had a different sound, different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was often true for Prince. I mean, think about Alphabet Street,
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You want to hear something good? Herbie Hancock, he did an album called New Standards. He did a cover version of Thieves in the Temple and reinterpreted. Woo! Yes.
I gotta try that.
Jackie Pickett made me go like, what?
Okay, so Aura gets killed by a truck. They almost get rid of the Grand Slam. The whole world's in disarray, and Prince comes out and sings still would stand the time, or
Still would stand all time.
stand all time, still would stand all time. I can't read my writing. This is very similar to like The Cross or his spiritual songs. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's just around the corner. Like that was one of the themes about the whole movie. It's just around the corner.
Yeah, it's a great ballad. A big, the steels are on it. The production, the vocal arrangement's amazing. And I just remember from the small club bootleg when they did it in a live performance, in like I think '87 or '88. His band played it in a small club after show, and it was on one of those famous bootlegs. And Bonnie Boyer was singing on it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
What can we talk about Bonnie Boyer? She's on the New Power Generation, and she's vocal on the Graffiti Bridge. Why do I love her so much? And why did she go away? Where is she? I love her.
She was on Love Sexy heavy. She was in the Love Sexy band, and I'm not sure if she was on Graffiti Bridge or not. She probably was on some maybe some of the tracks were recorded, previously.
I'm gonna tell you, Tom, there is nothing like when you looked at Rosie and when you looked at Bonnie, there is nothing like a diva who has the soul of a blues artist with the marrying of the gospel, yet can carry the jazzy inflections of pop.
Yeah.
And they're musicians on top of that. So they have musical sensibility.
Yeah.
And the tone, the person who I love, who has a tone that would make you think like that is Mesa Leak, who came out the band Incognito.
Yeah.
They have that kind of sound. The minute they open their mouths, you stop what you're doing and you got to turn around and go, what? That's what she has. And Prince had the foresight to put them on tracks that showcased that ability to the nines. So that was the greatest thing that he did. I even believe that I got a solo record by Rosie that she did. And just it don't hit the same way that the stuff she did with him hits, because his music was that much more seminal. So that's what I think you're feeling. You feel all those things that she delivers as an artist.
Rosie and Bonnie. I think Bonnie might have put out a solo record, but she mostly did she mostly continued to do session work, and she worked a lot with Raphael Sadiq. Strange, but of course Raphael Sadiq worked a lot, in the early days with Sheila E.
Yeah.
But,
Rosie passed away, right?
Yeah, Bonnie passed away. One of the last things that I think that most people would probably recognize that she did was the Total song, "Kissing You."
Okay.
Those are her vocals.
Okay.
On that song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those girls couldn't really sing.
Yeah. Total. They weren't.
I didn't say that, bro. I didn't say that.
I mean, they had personality. There you go. But those vocals are Bonnie Boyer's vocals.
Well, thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah.
The Graffiti Bridge is the soundtrack song. I love this song. I find it has a gospel and a classical. Okay, obviously.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Okay, listen. I scream it in the car like all the time, and even like I told you, I'm obsessed with this album. So it's not that this stuff is not too far from my heart. This song is uplifting. Everyone wants to be a Graffiti Bridge. A love of a boy, a love of a girl. It sounds like a Mentos commercial right there. It's real kind of corny. And so I mean, the song just kind of conjures up a lot of stuff. And then I listen to like, okay, there's Tevin, there's Mavis, like there's voices coming in. It's a lot of fun. It's a great song. It doesn't make sense, but it wraps up the whole album. That doesn't really make sense. But everyone wants to be a Graffiti Bridge. Christian, what do you think of Graffiti Bridge?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a cute song. It doesn't take itself too seriously. You can't really take it too seriously. It's a fun song. It's got some really pretty vocals in it. Yeah, I mean, it serves its purpose well. It's not trying to be like Purple Rain, the theme song, the title track. And I'm glad he did that approach, because he wouldn't have been able to, he wouldn't have been able to try to come up with something on par with that, obviously. So he went in a different direction, which is a smart thing to do. Something he's always sort of done, and to be able to pivot those kinds of things. So instead of trying to recreate it, something that's not recreatable, he did something sort of off the wall and goofy, and I think it worked.
Oh, it does work. Alban, what did you think?
I think it's just perfect what he said. It's Graffiti Bridge. It's the bridge through all these themes and songs. I actually like the lyrics of that song because, like, you hit it. It's uplifting. It's got that good vibe to it. You still have those nice little choruses in it. And when it breaks down with that, da, 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 ah, oh, it almost sounds like the Oompa Loompas from The Wizard of Oz, where you kind of get that happy, joyous feeling. Remember, we just killed a woman.
Yeah. I know.
Killed a woman. So now we got to get you back. We got to bring this thing back and kind of get you over that hump. So yeah. I do like the song. I really do.
Darnell, what's your thoughts about it?
Remember, we just killed a woman. Oh, that's right. That's so right. I love the vibe of it. I love that it's so thematic. When I first hear like the intro, like I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like I love everything about it. I love all the voices coming together. It feels like, we're wrapping this up, in this one song. I love it. I love the movements. I love it when Prince does stuff like that, and I love it.
Yeah.
So Darnell, let me hear you. You love the song, right?
I do.
Yeah. No, I couldn't tell.
It's goofy. It reps the whole movie, the whole thing, and it's a feel good thing. If you don't walk away from the movie, feeling like this song, then the movie didn't do its job. It is, now we're looking at 31 years. Oh, it was a bomb. It was. I think people want to hang Prince at that time period because he was such an artist and so eclectic, and that when sales didn't go the way they were back in the 80s, when things actually sold, they hounded and say a failure. But I don't look at this as a failure at all. At this point it's a missing gem from people's catalog. I think people skip over this, thinking that, oh, it's a soundtrack, it must be terrible, and it's not. It's fantastic. So that's kind of my final words on what Graffiti Bridge is to me. I'm addicted. You guys know that. I can't stop it. I listen to this album all the time. I watch the movie all the time. I can't stop. I'm way involved in it. Kristen, because I can't see your head bobbing. What's your thoughts on the final thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a great record. I think it has a lot of strong material. It's a lot of older material that he sort of had been working with for years, and he finally had a chance to use it. And I think it works well. The album actually got pretty good reviews when it first came out. People forget, Rolling Stone, I think, gave it an A+, or Entertainment Weekly gave it an A+, and called it a masterpiece. It wasn't until the movie came out that the album was sort of tarnished by being associated with it. But the album, I think, stands the test of time and has a lot of strong material on it. The movie, it's a curio. It's of its time, and it's not so bad. And one of the things was, it's interesting. It's never happened to me before or since. The only time this has happened, I went to the theater to see Graffiti Bridge, and I was the only person in the theater. This was my junior year of high school in my hometown. Yeah, Morgantown, West Virginia, my hometown, and I was the only one. I sat through the whole thing, and it was, it's definitely worth seeing if you're a Prince fan. It's fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we with this Prince Summit, we've turned your sour opinion to a little more positive. You can't. we have these Prince fans here ganging up on you if you're. Darnell, what's your final thoughts on Graffiti Bridge?
I think it's a great moment in the journey of just Prince's artistic journey. Like, I love it. You know, when you think about Prince, sometimes when you think about his projects, you got to look at the project before it and the project that comes after it. And I think this is like it's a great transitional album. The songs are good. I think, you know, even though like a lot of them are from like, you know, are vaulted, I think it's a great album. It was great to hear the time, you know, to hear the time on this record. I think that production, he was definitely in the transition. You can hear like different sounds, different this, different that. The movie itself, I agree with Christian. It's just fun. It's kind of fun, kind of campy. You know what I mean? And if you're a Prince fan, and if you enjoy seeing Morris in the time, you enjoy seeing Jill, you just enjoy it. You enjoy everything about it, you know. So I think I think people should definitely give it a second look. You know, I think this is the movie and the soundtrack, especially the soundtrack. Give it a second look. You know, there probably will never be a deluxe version of this album come out, but I want people to give it a second look.
I actually, you know, as I obsess on this, I want to see like a stage version of this, like with the whole storyline, with the dance. I mean, it's fantastic. I think, I mean, there's so many bad plays out there. Like, you know, there's no reason that this can't be, you know, just a full 2-hour fun-packed entertainment thing. I think it's great. Alban, what's your final on Graffiti Bridge?
I would say if it was a play, at least you know the music would be good.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, you know, sometimes when you really, really love and respect the artist, it's hard to be critical sometimes. So when I look at the Prince movies, this was my last movie from 1 through 4. I said Purple Rain was my favorite, Sign of the Times, which is my favorite album in his collection. That's my favorite record. Then Under the Cherry Moon, because he was not playing himself, he was playing a different character. And then here comes Graffiti Bridge. And Graffiti Bridge is a part 2 to Purple Rain. And it has, if you could separate them, and we had never seen Purple Rain, Graffiti Bridge would have been given a little bit more of a chance. But because we saw Purple Rain, Graffiti Bridge really had to struggle because we're comparing them to what we saw the first time out. But I thought they had some good characters in it. For these guys not to be actors, you know, he was able to take his friends, in essence, and put them in a movie, and they grossed $5 million. Okay? And the plot could use a little bit more help. I think Christian said it. The cinematography and the stage settings, they weren't that bad, you know. And you said you could see it was shot at the soundstage. You know, it wasn't like he went to you know, one of the theater, the lots in LA and did something there. So, you know, for what he worked with and what he had, I just am appreciative of the fact that this was his vision. He was able to take the vision from out of his brain and bring his friends along with him and say, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And then, oh, by the way, I have this songs to go along with it. And the songs is what helped this movie go. And definitely. I think Christian hit the nail on the head. The record came out first, and the record was ascending. The movie came out, it hit, and it dropped, and the record said, whoop, it started sliding down behind it. So it shows you how that video age really started impacting what how we ingest our product now as consumers. So for me personally, a movie, I watched it yesterday just so I could be up on what I saw. And I really sat down and watched it yesterday, and I had it lower rated when I had watched it from years back. I actually really raised it up because I started appreciating, because I started noticing all the little things that I probably didn't pay attention to. The soundtrack is still one of my favorites. As we said, The Question of You and Joy and Repetition, the stuff that Time does is just lethal. Okay, Round and Round, get your kids in there. Mavis and with the gospel, you get a little the eclecticness that we love him for is all displayed on that project. So I am still a huge fan of this project. I'm glad he did it. I wish he had opportunity to do a couple more. So at least we have some footage that we can see him, where we can see him doing other things than just being Prince. We get to see him walking, talking, speaking in ways that, you know, the folks that know him see him. We didn't have that luxury all the time to be around him.
Yeah.
So definitely worthwhile checking out. As Darnell said, folks need to give it a second look and really appreciate what he delivered at that time in 1990.
Yeah. Also, watch, like, they have these Easter eggs now. There's a big blow up Crisco bottle that's behind, like, you have Jill dancing in the side, you have them doing Shake by the time. There's fire going everywhere. And then on the left-hand side, there's this big Crisco bottle. Why it's there, I don't know. But it's big. It's about 6 feet high.
I think they said something. They used that line, Crisco, in the movie. I always remember hearing them say Crisco. So maybe it's a subliminal reference to it.
Yeah, who knows? And also, can you live underneath the floorboards of a studio?
Stage.
Can that happen?
I like that. I forgot about that.
And again, it's a great movie, and I appreciate it. The Prince Summit has now convened. Hopefully, we can do another one. I'm up for any discussion about Prince. Obviously,